Hey, I'm Jay the Dev Guy, and I played a lot of Team Fortress 2 in high school. And I'm older than I sound, so it's been a little while since then. But it doesn't surprise me at all to see TF2 still going strong. And after reinstalling it for this video, it's easy to see that Team Fortress 2 really is a timeless masterpiece. But seriously, the creativity of the mechanics in this game are still some of the best that I've ever played. I mean, find another game with something like the Your Eternal Reward, which is a knife that lets you disguise as an enemy player after backstabbing them. Or the Direct Hit, which deals more damage to knocked back enemies, but the rocket moves so much faster than the default that it makes getting these trick shots harder, but so much cooler. Or the Extinguisher, which deals critical damage to players that are on fire, letting the Pyro perform these sick melee... They nerfed this since I last played. But still, these mechanics are so fun that I find it really surprising single-player games haven't stolen more from TF2. Take the Engineer. He's just a Texan man that can build an aimbotting sentry gun to play the game for him. It's a pretty simple idea from a game design and programming perspective, yet I could find almost no single-player games that use them as a template. Sure, other multiplayer games have a worse TF2 engineer, but this concept feels like it's begging to be used as a foundation for a little indie game. And I'm a hack wannabe YouTuber with a full-time job, so I'm happy to just steal someone else's game design and vlog about it. So this is me turning the TF2 engineer into a single-player game. I'm really excited for this idea, and not only because I just find it to be a fun premise for a game I genuinely want to play myself, but also because it feels like something attainable for me as a solo developer to actually get done. The gameplay loop can be focused on surviving waves of enemies with you and your buildings, meaning I don't have to make a ton of different levels to make it fun. I think of games like Devil Daggers or Hyper Demon, arcadey shooters that just feel good enough to play endlessly despite being pretty simple in concept. These simple premises can do just one thing, but do that one thing going as hard as possible. And what's nice about me using a multiplayer game like TF2 as a template is that, as a multiplayer game, TF2 had to be at least somewhat balanced around how it feels to play against each character. Whether the TF2 engineer is successfully balanced to be fun to play against is open to interpretation, but since I'm making a single-player version, I don't care how unfun it is to be on the receiving end of my sentry gun, so I can crank everything the engineer already has up to 11 without a care in the world. I can go as hard as I want. I mean, I won't go as hard as Hyper Demon, to be clear, but I can still have a lot of fun with this. But before I do, I think I need to break down how it feels to play engineer. And what makes playing him different than playing other single-player games already out there. There are plenty of games about letting your autonomous minions do the work for you, so I've made a few important distinctions that I think make the engineer feel different to play. Number one is building freely in a 3D space instead of on a grid. It may seem like a petty distinction, but I genuinely believe the ability to place a building anywhere in an organic environment makes the engineer feel much different compared to placing a pawn on an artificially perfect game board. Number two is just having a small handful of simple buildings. Even with all of TF2's gimmicks, the engineer can never have more than 4 buildings out, and they each serve a very specific role. The sentry shoots, the dispenser gives health and ammo, the teleporters teleport. While some gimmicks can add minor complexities to your buildings, like the Wrangler's manual aiming of the sentry gun or the Gunslinger's mini-sentry, the engineer is never commanding an army of robots like you'd commonly see in something like a tower defense game or something like that. 3 is that the player always controls the engineer, staying in the action and forced to navigate the combat area by foot. No ambivalently staring down, watching the game play out from above. You're a squishy, killable fella the entire time the game is running. And so with the essence of the engineer distilled into those 3 parts, I got to work on a prototype. I gave the player some basic movement. He can run, jump, crouch, all the basic stuff. I didn't want to code too much since I'll probably overhaul his movement later, but I couldn't help myself from adding things like coyote time, which, if you don't know what that is, it's an extremely common mechanic in platformers where you can jump even after you've walked off a ledge, so every time the character walks off a ledge in this game, a short timer starts, and if you jump within that timer, the game will let you jump as if you were still on the ground. It just helps prevent moments where it feels like you should have jumped even though you were technically a little too late. But I've got a lot to do, so moving on. Something I like to do as early as possible is getting in placeholder art, and I've always really liked Skullgirls' method of placeholder art. They just import the rough sketches right into the game engine for testing before they do any polishing. It gives the characters this beautiful, handmade edge that I think something as digital as a video game really benefits from. And a much uglier reminder of the human touch that I love just as much is programmer art. My favorite example is Nuclear Thrones. During early access, JW, the lead programmer, would create his own crappy placeholder art with a mouse. But of course, players were endeared by the crappiness MS Paint placeholder art, and it became a beloved staple of the game's development, and it's easy to see why. So I wanted to have Skullgirls' charming hand-drawn placeholder sketches and cheap memes, and I don't think there's a better way to do that. I added Uncle Dane to my game.
Uncle Dan, your hats and your weapons are so cool, you're so epic. Uncle Dan, for Christmas I demand a vintage crash crab. I promise I'm your #1 fan, NG Man.
For the Sentry, I whipped together something even worse looking, sort of like a Plants vs. Zombies pea shooter, and after playing around with these placeholders in Unreal Engine, I'm really happy with the results. I'm doing a lot of the tricks that I've learned about making 2D characters look good in 3D worlds that I talked about in my first video. You should check out if you haven't seen it yet. I just really love having hand-drawn cartoons move freely within 3D games, and I'm really happy this style continues to work for me. But my Sentry needs something to shoot at, so I coded a basic enemy and had them drop pickups that can be collected. They attract the player when you get close enough, and coding something simple like this takes a lot more thought than you'd probably think. So to get started making this pickup, I gave it a large collision that, when overlapped by an actor who's capable of collecting, the pickup starts to move towards them. But there's this problem where if I overlap the collision through a wall, the pickup has no idea there's a wall in between itself and the other character. All it knows is that a valid actor overlapped its collision, so it just goes right through. So to solve this, I have the pickup just draw a line between the center of itself and the overlapped character, and if the line detects that there's a wall in between, just don't attract to them. But there's still a problem where if I initially overlap the collision while blocked by a wall, eventually I can turn a corner and gain line of sight of the pickup, and since I never left and re-entered this collision, the pickup isn't doing that line trace anymore to check to see if it can see me. So an amateurish solution would be to have the pickup just check for line of sight every single moment, which would work, since as soon as I turn a corner it would notice there's nothing blocking it anymore and would just start being collected, but this really isn't the ideal way to program something like this for games. And while this example by itself isn't going to give any PC any trouble or lag or anything like that, just getting in the habit of running logic like this every single frame will lead to the game lagging a lot earlier than you'd probably think. A simple solution would be for the pickup to just check for line of sight every half second or so, and in practice I found this to be totally fine. This sort of staggering of this logic that you could run every moment but instead just run from time to time is very common for games to use in logic like this that isn't absolutely critical to have every single frame the game is running. There's a lot more logic to this pickup, and I know this is a pretty long tangent for something as seemingly unimportant as an item pickup, but I hope it highlights the thought that goes into these things that are super easy to take for granted when we're just playing a game. But anyway, to pick up the pace again, I wanted all my enemies to be evil robots, so I made them into Wall-E. But I wasn't sure if it clearly communicated that they were a bad guy, so I gave Wall-E a gun. And we all know that the only thing that can stop a Wall-E with a gun is a good guy with a gun, so I had to code one for the player. For now, I'm basing the primary weapon around TF2's Rescue Ranger, which is a shotgun for the engineer that shoots projectiles instead of bullets, and it hurts enemies, but it heals your sentry. And now all the basics are in, and these are definitely just the basics, but I'm hoping that this simple game loop succeeds in what I want out of an engineer single-player experience. The enemies drop pickups, which encourages the engineer to be right where the action is, and since the pickups time out, it forces you to get up close rather than just play cleanup after your sentry has killed everything in the room for you. And your healing projectile encourages you to place your sentry where you can have line of sight as you move around the map, and I think this is a great foundation for a game that I hope you're excited about watching me develop in future videos. This prototype is at a really exciting stage for me right now, and the possibilities for things to talk about in upcoming videos seem endless. Like, what other buildings is the engineer going to be able to build in my single-player version? Are there going to be variations or multiple different kinds of sentry guns? Like, what different enemy types am I going to put in? What other weapons from TF2 can I just steal? You know the drill. You know, you can do the YouTube stuff, liking the video really helps, and of course, subscribe to see everything I'm going to make next. But what I really want to encourage is, if anyone has any ideas for things I can implement or simple mechanics that can make this better, really please do leave them in the comments. I'm super eager to hear what you guys have to say. Okay, I gotta go, make this game, but I gotta sort of put a bow on this video first, wrap it all up. I was thinking ending it with another TF2 YouTuber reference, so, well, I put Germa in the game.
Life is pain! Life is pain! I hate myself!
You gotta be kidding me.